All right, looks like we're live.
All right.
Got quite a few people hanging out already.
Good deal.
We have John Trudell. Yeah, Dakota's timeout. We gave him that nickname because he always likes to earn a timeout. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and time him out right now.
We're in the timeout.
Yep, so he's now in timeout. He'll be back in a little bit. We have Don and Wendy English. Unfinished Project. Unfinished Project likes to drop in periodically, days away from alive to see what's going on.
Ah.
How is everybody this evening? We've got a handful watching so far. They'll jump in. You guys just recently had some classes, I noticed. I was looking at your Facebook page where the announcement was for this, and it looked like you guys had several classes recently.
We've been pretty busy. We're at Vandermeer Speedway right now, getting ready to start a class. We've got an adventure that starts tomorrow, and then a 2-day class on Tuesday and Wednesday, or Monday. Yeah, Tuesday and Wednesday is a 2-day class for licensing. So guys are busy. Then they're going to Woodburn after that. And, so we're grateful that we're able to do stuff. You know,
that's great. You guys travel. I went to Gainesville, but it would have been cool going other places too. They're all different.
Yeah. It's a little bit higher when we go when we're traveling because our expenses are higher.
Right.
But, other than that, it's the exact same cars, exact same crew, everything.
Yep.
Green Hawley still teaches all the classes. So we also have Bakersfield coming up, which will be our first class in California in a while. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and it's a pretty popular stop right now.
You guys spread out. I noticed it looks like your costs are different for every class by a little bit, and it looks like it has to do with where you have to go to teach it. And that's a pretty honest pricing model when you adjust like that.
Yeah, I mean it's $14.95 if you take it in Gainesville. There's a couple dates in Gainesville that are $16.95. Like we got the week between Christmas and New Year, and then we got a class right after the Gator Nationals that's $200 more, but it's at $16.95. But anywhere else we travel, it's $19.95. So it is $500 more expensive, but it really doesn't matter, John, whether it's in Burn, Oregon, or Reading, Pennsylvania, which we go there too. So.
Well, I found that when you're serious enough about anything to travel to train, that's the least of your expenses usually is your tuition.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have all your lodging and travel and everything else. So, I mean, it won't change, how serious the students are.
No, it doesn't. The classes are good, and our drivers are pretty much the same. Same kind of mix of people that have experience or no experience, or they're just to have fun, check off a bucket list item, or somebody that's going to race a pretty serious race car.
We had a great mix in the class I took last year. We had folks with lots of experience, folks with no experience at all. Just a lot of different, but the thing in common is they were all a great and supportive bunch of people.
Yeah, everybody's there for the same reason. They want to learn something and
yes,
get a little better at driving a race car, or like I said, try to drive it for the first time. It's pretty awesome.
They were great students.
See what happens, first day versus second day. See how, as they get further down the racetrack, how much better the driving it gets. Just with a little more seat time. That's all. Plus, Frank's instruction. Yeah.
I told him at a break, you can tell that he's been teaching that class a long time, and it's a very seasoned curriculum because everything he says has purpose. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that he has refined everything he teaches through many, many classes to have maximum effect, minimal clutter. You can tell it's just a very well seasoned class.
Yeah.
And he's teaching to what the students need to know not versus just what all he could tell them. So the classes are about the students and not the teacher. And that just seems like it would be a natural thing, but believe it or not, there are some classes that aren't that way. But he makes it all about the learning experience for the students, and I love that and appreciated it.
Yeah, he enjoys what he's doing, and I've been working for him for a long time, and I'm still very impressed at how well he does what he does. It never gets old. If I was doing
Yes.
it, I'd probably be trying to wing some stuff. He doesn't wing anything. He's very observant and basically he's just one of the finest instructors you'll find anywhere on any subject. But
Absolutely.
he knows what's going on in those cars. There's not anything you can do that he doesn't know exactly what you did.
He's seen it all in his time.
He has. He's got a mind like a referee. I watch football and I say, how do guys see that? But Frank is able to. He's very much aware of what happens at every given moment, and he's able to see things, and it all registers. Of course, it's a lot of repetition because he's seen so many runs and so many drivers. But he's an amazing instructor. So
I enjoyed watching him teach with the other students. It's really interesting to watch. I just want to say hi to some more folks that have showed up here. Unfinished Project back in the house. Mopar Den, Lunar Outlaw Garage, George Bonnie 90. Party can't start till he gets here. Dreadhead Hayden, William Miller. Don't recognize him, but welcome. So anyway, I like to greet folks when they come into the live. They're the reason we're doing this.
that's right.
And anyway, we have some questions here, and we'll get to certainly more questions later and some comments. Hayden says the class seems awesome. I bet that's a great experience. That's an understatement. It absolutely is, and we'll get to that experience too. Let's see here. And the Unfinished Project says, what will your license allow you to do? Well, not get in trouble for going too quick would be the short answer to that. I can go as quick as 749 in the quarter mile, basically. I have a 4A and 4B license, so I can drive either wheelbase. Short or long wheelbase, and the brake, I believe, is 125 inches.
Most of our graduates are racing in the level 4 or category 4, where it's 999 to 750. Anything 10 seconds and slower, you don't need a competition license. But as soon as you go into the nines, you do need a license, and the licenses are broken down by wheelbase and speed. So you got a type A license. It's anything that's longer than 125 inch wheelbase, mostly dragsters in that category. But there are some long wheelbase trucks that are over 125 inches.
Yeah.
So technically they would be an A category. The B category is anything up to 125 inches, which includes everything from funny cars all the way down to, door cars, roadsters, dragsters, whatever. And then you got your type C, and that's for pro stock and pro mod. And then your D is your motorcycles, snowmobiles, and all that stuff. And within each one of those A, B, C, D categories, you have level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Level 1 is your fastest, your professional categories like top fuel, funny car. Level 2 is your top alcohol classes and pro mod. And level 3 is, advanced ET, anything that's running like top sportsman, top dragster, anything quicker than 749 or quicker, all the way to 6 flat. And then your level 4 is everything, 750 to 999. And
I guess that ET license would be for these really quick street cars that have become so popular in the last few years. I'd imagine that's what they need.
Those are, some of those are really, really fast. Most people need a class or a level 4 license, either A or B. These days, there's a lot of different door car classes, and an NHRA license will usually cover you no matter what racing sanctioning or organization that you're running with. So, and then if you needed to, if your car did run quicker than that, it's easy to do an upgrade. in your own car. Our goal is to help you to learn to drive the car safely and properly to its full potential and help you to earn that NHRA license. And a lot of people want more than the license. They want that Frank Hawley education, and that's what we're there for.
Well, for what it's worth, I've had people ask me to describe the experience, and I haven't done a video on it, but this is the perfect time. We have you here, so this is just the way I saw it as a student.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I see 7-second darts for no. It'll be 7 seconds. It'll be 7 seconds in the eighth. But yeah, so I got this nifty trick I can do now. I can highlight a comment on the screen. So yeah, that's a pretty cool function of StreamYard. But now, when I first thought I would do this, it was just before the whole COVID thing had taken off. It was wintertime. And wintertime, I have to spend more time inside, and I think about things that I want to do. And I thought, you know what, this would be a good thing to do. It would be good education. It would be a lot of firsts for me. I've never made a pass on a quarter-mile track before, so that was different.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I had the idea. So the first thing that you do when you run into the website and you run into different things is it kind of funnels down to Paul Shields. You're the gatekeeper. So I immediately reached out to Paul Shields. He answers his phone, really responsive. And I cannot tell you how important that is for any business, any school, or having folks who help the students and return calls and answer the phone. It's such a big deal because we have a bunch of questions. We're trying to decide if it's right for us, and we need that. And so I was very pleased to be able to say Frank Hawley School has that, and Paul Shields is that guy.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, he's the guy. His name is not on the school. You don't always know his name, but he's very important. And once you get here, you realize how important he is at the school. So he helped me work through all my paperwork. And I don't remember what all I had to give you. It wasn't bad, but it was stuff that needed to be in order. And you made sure I had everything and had it on time. And once I got there, it was a breeze because I had already gotten everything in order, and that was wonderful. So that's a big thing that you do that again, people don't know until they've done it. So I had all my paperwork in order, all my stuff together. Then I go and show up at Gainesville. I like to get in town the day before early enough, get a good night's rest, all that stuff. I come to the school. Frank came himself and greeted us at the gate. Every student, shook hands with everybody, wanted to make sure we had everybody, did a head count. He is very organized and meticulous. Yeah. So when you have different type of experiences, like even going to the track or school or anything, you'll find that some teachers have a varying degree of organization and administration. He is definitely on the tighter side of things. He runs a tight ship, and it's a very good thing. Nothing falls through the cracks. He's on top of all that stuff. So when we were there on game day, he didn't leave anything for us to have to wonder. Like he didn't give vague instructions for where things like the restrooms were, the classroom, or any of the protocols. He told us all that stuff right up front, which made it easier and better for us. You didn't see students wandering around wondering these things because he addressed them. Very organized. Classroom was great. It's a nice facility and all of that, but his classroom instruction has a nice flow to it. He breaks up the classroom with the hands-on in the car, and it goes back and forth. So we would have classroom time, and then we would actually go out and get acclimated to the cars. Before we did that, we went out to the starting line and went through the tree and that kind of thing. And so we would go out, we made our first passes, we came back in the classroom, debriefed the runs. There is nothing that tells the truth better than having a camera right directly behind the car on the starting line. You can't get by with anything. And I didn't realize how many runs that look perfectly good from just leaning on the fence at the starting line, how much more critical you can be when there's a camera right behind the car. I haven't even noticed that, and I've taken video of cars on the starting line, but that camera, the truth comes out. So yeah, and he knows what you do too. He says you weren't looking at the finish line or whatnot, or your throttle was 7/8 open, not all the way. He knows these things. So anyway, we worked through all that stuff, and he made it clear that he wants to teach you how to drive as much and more than how to race, and it's so important. And that made a lot of difference. But I love the way he administers it. The clocks are off until the end of the day, but you do get your time slips. And I'm not, I don't know exactly why he does it, but I would speculate that he wants to keep people's minds off of the numbers and onto what they're doing. Right. And that would be a good way to do it. But anyway, my experience was really good like that. I made a total of 9 runs. The staff was wonderful. Jimmy and Craig, those guys, they work really hard.
They do.
They remind me of like the mates on the fishing boat, the hardest working people on the crew, and just they never complain. They're on their feet all day, and they work hard.
They do. Those guys are such a blessing to have at the school because they're extremely knowledgeable of everything that's going on. They're both very accomplished racers themselves, and they take care of everything on those cars. And when it comes to any kind of maintenance that needs to be done, you never know about it because they just got it covered
right.
so fast. And you'd be in the classroom, if there was anything that needed looking at, they've looked at it by the time you come back out. And they're just amazing, really.
Well, speaking of that, so and by the way, we have Dallas Brown, president of the AHRA. He's in the house. Tom Muse, he's in the house. He's like our resident scientist. Anyway, just wanted to shout out to them. So Jimmy Montgomery and Craig
Penny.
What's that?
Penny. Craig.
Yeah.
Penny.
Yep. Those two guys are helping students get acclimated to the cars. You have to do a blindfold test as part of your license, but they go over everything, where all the controls are, and you do that so many times during the course of the day, the blindfold test is not a problem for anybody who's been paying attention. But those guys are also, not only are they good at teaching people when they get in the cars, they're also a great crew. They had an engine failure in one of the cars. It was a freak thing. A wrist pin or something broke in one of those engines. And I want to say Frank said they'd been 6 years or 7 years, something like that, without an engine failure. And we had one that day. And they kept running rounds in the other car. They have 2 Super Gas Firebirds. So they finished that round of passes in the other Firebird. And Craig and Jimmy, I guess they worked into the evening, early in the morning. They had that engine changed out, ready to go by the time class started the next day.
Yeah, they do whatever it takes to get it done.
Yeah,
they're really fast. That's why they won't let me play with the tools in the shop, because I'm just like, I'm a nice guy and they like me and everything, and I'm not totally useless. But it's like me trying to jump in and help a top fuel team.
Yeah.
If you aren't in the rhythm, you're in the way. So
well, they did. They got it changed, ready to roll. There's a flat tire. They fixed the flat tire right there in the staging lanes. They stay calm. That's one thing I really like there, is that everybody's calm. No matter what happens, it seemed like nobody ever lost their cool and just worked right through it. Nobody ever shouted. Nobody got ill. There's another school we all know we can't say that about. We like the guy, but he's kind of known for that. But Frank was really cool. And all it starts from the top and comes down, because I noticed over the course of that couple of days I met everyone there, and they're all like that. And I think it's because of the leader.
It is. Frank's an excellent leader. He's an excellent businessman. I mean, he's the reason that the school is the way it is. Him and Craig and Jimmy are the reason that my job is probably the easiest. Well, it is the easiest job because everybody's happy when they're done. They come to the school, and some people have expectations that they couldn't live up to, as far as maybe they didn't drive as well as they as they had hoped they would, but most people do. Most people end up, even if they have a steep learning curve in the beginning, by the time they're done with the class, they're driving well and really, really happy. And even if they weren't driving as well at the end as they would have liked to, they're not disappointed with us. They had a good time and they learned a lot. And a lot of times they'll come back and kind of pick up where they left off. And it's not so much how well you do in the beginning; it's how well you end up. You know, how you finish. You know.
I agree, and I watched a lot of students really improve. There's certain things that in the back of your mind you kind of know are true, but you don't realize how important they are till you're driving something that's a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, segues good into Jimmy Fed's comment. He says, I'd be terrified going nines in the quarter with a sloppy streetcar. Well, so would I. But I'll tell you, the cars down there are really set up to go straight. There's no feedback from the steering wheel. I drove two. I drove a Super Gas Firebird, a Super Comp Dragster, and both of them you can steer with a finger. They really drive really well, and that makes a huge difference. I would not want to go 158 miles an hour in my Dart Sport. It'd be terrifying. But in those cars, you don't even think about the handling.
No.
You know it's a good handling car when you're noticing other things. Like I noticed that out around 1,000 feet, that Lexan windshield, the way it distorts in the corners a little bit and things like that. The way the hood scoop kind of moves around. The bodywork moves a lot more at those speeds. So little things like that.
Yeah, you were paying attention then.
Oh, yeah, I was. But as Frank told us, if you're not watching the very end of the track the whole time, you won't be able to make corrections as needed. Right. And so that was a big point of emphasis for us, and that made us better. And that's universally true, but in those cars that are quicker, you really have to do that. You can get away with it in a slow car. Let's see. American Hot Rod Association, Dallas here says Frank was also an excellent driver in his day. I'm sure that helped. Well, indeed he was. He was a hired driver. Yeah. You really got to be good to be a hired driver.
Yep. He won 2 world championships in Nitro Funny Car and quite a few national events in the fuel dragster as well. So not everybody that is a good driver is a good teacher, though. He's gifted, very gifted when it comes
absolutely. One thing I noticed too, and I kind of pick up on things because I teach. I've taught firearms professionally for, I guess, 12 years now. And that is, he doesn't have any ego. I mean, he doesn't show ego to his class at all. And he's a guy that has plenty to be proud of, but those classes are about the students, and they are not about him. They're not about useless war stories. When he tells a story, it's because it has a direct relevance to what you're learning that day. And I was really impressed by that. I really liked his demeanor.
And Jimmy and Craig are like that too. I keep my cat from coming in.
I agree.
Jimmy and Craig are like that too. They got plenty they could brag about, but they don't. They are just helpful and kind, and really look out for the students. They have a calming effect too. If you're nervous getting in the car, they're going to do everything they can to help you to be comfortable. And give you some encouragement, and you feel like, okay, well, they've got me tight in this thing, and everything's good. I'm ready to go. And so it's a community, it's a system, and they're part of it. But you're right, Frank is he's really good, just really good.
It's good top-down leadership. Tom Muse brings up an interesting point. He said, I bet the abuse the parts takes a great advertisement for companies. Parts that can live that long are good parts. The combinations of those vehicles are really good. I mean, they have 572 Chevy crate motors in both the Super Gas Firebird and in the Super Comp Dragster. Right. The transmissions are Power Glides by FTI. Mm-hmm. And you can look at the cars and tell. I can't think undercover chassis in the dragsters. I don't know who did the cars, but they're really well constructed, safe vehicles.
Those were built by Chassis Engineering.
Okay.
And they did a great job with those cars. And there again, Jimmy and Craig are so good at taking care of maintenance on them, and they've learned over the years. We've learned by logging a lot of stuff. We know pretty much how many runs any given part is likely to make, and if when a part fails during a class, which it is rare. I'm not sure why you had that experience. Sorry.
Yeah, it's rare from what I hear. I just happened to be in that class.
Yeah, it just happened to happen at that time. But things are mechanical, and there's some things just give out before they're supposed to.
Yep.
But I guarantee you, when something goes out in a class, it's because it failed prematurely. And the stuff we've got on the cars, it is proven stuff. It is proven stuff.
They don't cut any corners on the cars. The equipment is top rate. They don't take any shortcuts, and I can tell that. There was no worn out junk on any of these cars. Everything was really good. But a couple things I noticed, even with that failure, they still had the backup plan. We still got to make our runs. We adjusted the schedule, and everybody got to do everything they needed to do. That wasn't a problem. The other thing is I was impressed by how well everything did run. Like I noticed that the cars never ran hot. Like they do a really good job of managing the temperature on the cars, even in the middle of summer. So that's impressive. They didn't put a lot of burden on the students to have to manage things. They have systems that work well.
Yeah. And those are systems that Frank has developed, over the years. But I started working for him in 94, and he had a good program at that point. It wasn't like things have changed drastically since then. It was good there, and he still keeps working on things to make them better and just fine tune everything. So he is an excellent leader.
So this is a good question for you here from Don and Wendy English. He's asking, when the last time you had an incident at the school, are there any that are at the top of the list? I'm sure that over that much time, there's been some kind of something you've had to overcome or something.
Well, there have been, but to be honest with you, I can't remember when the last time somebody hurt something, like ran into something. I know that at one time, several years ago, there was somebody ran into the fence. I don't know. It's kind of hard to figure why somebody would run into the fence, but you do have to be careful.
Sure.
We had one guy that kind of brushed up. Well, this was in an adventure program, and he brushed up against the wall when he was turning out. He brushed the front wheel up against it. But he actually was doing pretty good, because we found out when he came back that he's actually was legally blind, and
wow.
Didn't disclose that. There again, it was
wow.
And his parents. He was a younger fellow, not real young, but his parents were there, and they didn't say anything either. So we didn't let him drive anymore. He didn't hurt anything, just a scrape. But when we investigated what happened, it was that's what happened. So we've been very fortunate.
These type of things are inevitable when you run something this many years. And, I've had various things, happen over the years, just odd stuff. But you guys run a really tight ship. People are making singles. So there's, we did everything in the left lane, ran all singles, all safety equipment. Like I've never worn a neck collar in a car before. That was a different experience. So I had to get used to that. That was, But so
weren't thinking about that too much first few months.
No, I was thought about it on the first run, but after that I quit thinking about it. But the safety equipment, running everything from the left lane. If you have that crutch about the hood scoop being in your way, you get to learn to deal with that, because we did everything in the left lane. And by the end of the day, I said, it's kind of silly. I can see everything I need to see.
Right.
But a well-run school, incidents won't hurt it, because you guys are doing what you need to do. You're taking care of the students.
Right. And we use the left lane primarily because the dragsters, the turning radius on it, it's much easier to make it to the left lane. Right there where the staging lanes are than the right lane. And so that's why we normally run in the left lane.
Okay. So if you ever have, say, an oil down or a problem, that might be easier to switch to the right, could you switch to the right versus?
Sure. And we have run the right lane before. There's sometimes when there's different reasons. Sometimes the track will want us to run in the right lane as opposed to the left lane. But our preference is left lane. But we can run in either lane. It works.
Now, do you do much traveling when the school travels? I mean, I know
I've been a few places, but they really don't need me anymore. And I shouldn't say they don't need me anymore. They don't need me at the classes. So I would be another expense. And that's one thing that you try to control so that your costs are within line. And having me there, since I'm not part of the mechanical crew, they have everything in the classroom and everything. Like the guys, they set up the classroom and everything. Frank kind of does the final run order and stuff like that. But those two guys, they load everything up. When that truck and trailer is loaded, there's not room for anything else in there. You've got 4 dragsters, 2 door cars, and all the safety equipment and everything else in the car in that truck for the class in that trailer, and they make sure all that stuff's in there. And then when they get there, they set everything up where it's supposed to be. Frank comes in and does the final setup of the class, where everybody's going to sit and everything right down to the driving order is it's planned out. So they plan out the run order based on a few different things, but one of the main things is height and weight. So we got the same kind of the similar sized drivers in the same cars, so that we have minimal adjustments on the controls. Because like in the dragsters, you can we can put seat pads in, we can in the door cars too, but in the dragsters, the steering and the pedals are adjustable. So we try to have it so that we have as few of those adjustments as necessary.
The cars are pretty generous. I'm 280 pounds. I had no problem getting in and out of the car or the dragster. I mean, it's not like getting in and out of a Cadillac, but there's plenty of room. It's made to where, universally people can get in and out.
Yeah, and we can take people of all sizes.
Yep.
In the cars,
We had some tall students. We had, I think, in our class, we had everybody from about 5'2" to 6'4" in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it all worked out just fine.
Yeah.
Tom is asking an interesting question. A little history needed on my part. Does this school have the funny cars connected by track by a guide rail?
No, sir.
Tom, I don't even know what that is.
Well, I mean, they do have. There is a dragster experience. It doesn't have anything to do with us, but they're in a couple of different places where they have propane powered dragsters that are controlled on a rail. So you get the experience in those, but you're not really you can't crash them as far as I know. But our stuff is all just like you would see at any given race. They are real race cars on a real racetrack. Everything's hot and live.
Yep.
So, and there's nobody else in the car with you.
Yep.
So it's learning how to do it.
You're making your run solo. You don't have a radio. And Frank explained to us that he experimented with radios in the cars in the past, and he just found them in the balance of things, that the radio was more distracting than valuable. That was his experience. So they teach around that. And he said, if there's something we really need to relay on the starting line, we'll just shut you down and tell you.
Right.
So, that was, he did that to me one time. I didn't, they like you to go to park, before you stage. And I wasn't used to that, and that's cool. So he just shut me down real quick and said, go to park. And I did. And everything's cool. Everything's cool. When you forget something, it's not the end of the world. Nobody panics.
Right. And then, when you're racing, you're probably not going to put it in park, but he has you put it in park because he's going to walk up to the car and put the rev limiter or turn the burnout rev limiter off and, motion you forward.
Right. I couldn't think why he did it offhand, but yeah, there's a reason. Everything they do there's a reason. you've seen a lot of change there. You've been there.
27 years.
I was going to say 27 years.
Yeah.
What changes have you seen that you've liked? What would be some of your favorite? Because I know you've seen a lot of evolution.
Yeah, I mean, most of the things that I've seen have just been small, and I think one of the best things that happened was, especially for our guys, was in the years ago we had two 42 foot gooseneck trailers and two dualies that we hauled the cars in, and it was rough on the guys to drive those vehicles across country. When Frank ended up getting the big truck and trailer, it's still a lot of work to carry the stuff across country, but it's a whole lot better for those guys. And
Yeah.
they got a sleeper so that they can keep up with all the rules on the road and make sure that they're sleeping when they're supposed to be, and got the electronic logs and stuff like that. So that's probably one of the most significant changes for them. For our students, most of the changes have just been kind of little things that have made it better and better and better, and to make things flow smoother. Um, so I can't really think of anything that's been a big drastic change. We've had a couple of different engine builders over the time that I've been there, and now that we've I don't know how many years we've had those 572s from GM, but those have been the most reliable engines that we've ever had. They require the least amount of maintenance. They're very well engineered, and the transmission, same thing. We've gone with FTI, and they've been. We've had other good suppliers of transmissions, but the FTI, they seem to be very strong working. Every once in a while we have a problem, but we do a lot of runs on those transmissions, and we got 4 of them that are running all the time. So, and 2 of them that run in the adventures. So, you make hundreds and hundreds of runs with no problems. We're very, very, very happy with the combinations that we have.
Mopar Den has a question for you. He wants to know what's your take on the many tracks that are struggling or there's track opposition? Does the school have a promotion program to help tracks stay around? As you know, that a lot of tracks are having a hard time staying open.
Well, that's true, and it's like any business. You got to do what you can. I think it's. Of course, we're not in the track business. We have our mission is to keep us in business and make sure that we're doing our have a profitable business so that we can continue doing what we love to do. Everybody that works at the school loves to do what we're doing, and we want to do it as long as we possibly can. As far as the tracks go, I think that a lot of more people involved in racing with the different types of races. Even though you're getting a lot of no prep races, there's a lot of different classes that didn't exist several years ago that I think are good. As far as a track operator, I really don't know what you'd have to do to keep your track going. That's out of my wheelhouse. But I wish I could answer it better.
Yeah, well, no, it's just a question that I don't think any of us know exactly. We just know that it's harder and harder to have a track today because of noise and subdivisions and these kind of things, encroachment. Don and Wendy English have a question. Do they have remote shutoffs for the cars in case of trouble?
No, we don't. We do have them in the blown alcohol cars, but there's no remote shutoff in the Super gas cars. There is a big red button in the middle of your steering wheel that you can shut that ignition off at without even looking. You just hit it and it shuts off.
Right.
There's a couple of reasons why we don't. I don't really want to explain why we don't do it.
Right. Sure.
We've been doing this since Well, Frank started the school in 1985, and it works. We really don't have a problem where we would need to shut the car off.
Mhm.
If if the
No, I
car,
agree.
yeah,
Well, see, and some of the parallels I noticed just from having been a teacher myself, even though it's in something completely different, when you treat the students like the responsible adults they are,
hmm
they will generally rise to the occasion. And if
that's
you don't give somebody an opportunity to be responsible, they're more likely to not be.
well.
And
If they
that's what
think
I
you
found.
there's something there that's gonna, well, if I'm really that bad, Frank will shut me off.
Right,
You know,
right.
and
That's kind of what I was sensing there.
yeah,
But you
hmm
do get treated like you get treated like a responsible adult. In my experience, the whole time you're there, from the time you get there to the time you leave. And I think that the reason is because, well, one is respect. You have an opportunity to earn respect when you're there, and you'll get it if you earn that respect. And the other is typically the kind of people who are serious enough to take time out of their life and travel and train and spend money and have the discipline to show up on time and do all of these things. Those aren't the kind of people you would have trouble with being less responsible anyway.
right, right.
But that's just what I noticed, and we didn't have any safety problems. It was well run.
That's true. We have had to tell. It's rare that you have to tell somebody that they just can't drive anymore, but it has happened a time or two.
And
Uh,
that's life.
yeah,
But we
it's not for everybody. It's
it's
not
not
for
for
everybody.
everybody. But then again, if it was for everybody, it wouldn't be exciting. The most exciting things can't be for everybody.
Right, right. Well, not everybody wants to come to drag racing school or drive a race car. If they did, well, I'd live in a bigger house and drive a nicer car, John. But we got there are a lot of people out there that would love the opportunity to get behind the wheel of a race car, and that's what we give them. We don't care if you don't plan on racing, if you just want to come and see what it's like, or if you plan to go pro mod racing. It doesn't matter to us. We train everybody the same way,
Right.
because um, that's what we do. And if you do go out and race, we want our graduates to make us proud. We don't want to say, "Oh, wow, wonder how Frank signed off their license." He doesn't do that. No, if he signed your license off, you did just fine.
Well, I'll tell you, there is a certain responsibility that comes with that.
Hmm
You want to honor all your teachers.
Yeah,
So I hope to try to do as good a job as I can being an ambassador just as a graduate of that school, because every graduate is an ambassador whether they choose to be or not.
well, we're
And,
proud of you, John. We
well,
really
we try.
are.
We try. Unfinished project says you're on your own.
Yeah.
As far as running the inside of that car, yes, you're on your
You're on
own.
your own.
On
Yes.
everything else, you're not. You've got an enormous support network there, but they train you. And then, yes, when it comes to running the inside of the car, that's your office for that run. Yes, for that part, you're on your own, but really nothing else. They're going to coach you and do everything else you need
And
to do.
you get everything, everything that you need to know. You are
Yes.
clearly instructed on what to do, and the
Oh,
cars
yes.
are set up to be as simple as they can to drive. They're very driver friendly. They are real race cars, and um, we've got them so that they're not difficult to learn to drive.
No, it's probably one of these things I could guess that over all these years, if there's any one little thing that was ambiguous, he's probably thought about it and changed the curriculum to make that clearer as time has gone on. And I'll tell you, after all these years, I know in my experience, it was very clear. I didn't have to ask. I didn't have to ask any of those quote unquote stupid questions because he answers these things. He teaches you very clearly. And I like that. That's a preference of mine. Tom Hughes is asking, does the school count for speed qualifications? Our tracks require pre-qualifications for 990 and better. I think he's just asking about your licensure. That's what the school
Right.
does.
Our cars run quicker than what's required. You do run them flat out, so if you were going to try to make our cars run any faster than they would, we we can maybe put the chips up a little higher or something,
Yeah.
ship point or something, but you can't make those cars go much faster than what we do. And they run low nines. You know, we could license you at 9.99 or quicker, but the door cars typically run 920s to 940. Sometimes in cool weather, great track, light driver, you know, it'll run quicker than that. Run 9.0s.
I'm a heavy driver. I went 937 on my best pass.
Well, that's good. What
And
month were you
that's
there? It was
May.
May. Okay,
Yeah.
so that was probably good weather, wasn't it?
It was good weather. It was in the
Were you at
80s.
930s?
937 at 143.
That's good. You gave it all it had.
Yeah.
That's great.
But
So
the cars are easy to drive, though. They make it easy because they have a lot of traction. They go straight.
mhm,
You've got your shifter running on a timer, so they make it easy to make good runs. I mean,
right. And
the cars are
dragsters
good like
run
that.
820s to 840s at 160. So if you like if you run the car and you know it's a 930 car, Frank wants you to run it at 930 if he's going to show you, you know, if he's going
Sure,
to sign off your license. If you run
sure.
it at 990, 999, he's probably not going to sign it off because you didn't have the throttle down all the way. He wants to make sure that you're comfortable with the throttle all the way down and you know, driving the car safely and properly, following all the instructions, lifting where you're supposed to lift, doing the proper shutdown, uh, and uh, and if you can do that, then you get your license run signed off. Some people have a steeper learning curve, might need to buy an extra run, but we license a lot of people within the 6 runs that are included in your tuition.
I didn't have to make any runs up. In fact, I think you actually can have one run, not one run, maybe two, but I know at least one run to go not as planned, and you wouldn't have to make any extras up because you had
Right.
6 runs there.
There's 6 runs. We go 200 feet, half track, 1,000 feet, and 3 full runs if you haven't had to repeat any. The license form requires 2 good full runs. So if
Yep.
you had to repeat one of those runs early, you still end up getting 2 good full runs, and he'll sign it off. Um, what he likes to see is a progression of uh, you know, competence, basically. So if you made um, great runs to half track and then you started steering the car a little too much at the, you know, on the top end of the track, and you know there was not really a good explanation for that, he's, depending on what it is, there again it's all Frank's judgment, but if you don't improve that, then he's not going to sign the license runs off. He wants to see that you are better and better, and you know, driving the car the way it's supposed to be driven. Uh, but it's not hard to earn a license at the class. It really isn't. You just follow the instructions.
You know, following the instructions is most of it. Really, it is. This guy says, hopefully we don't, the wrench says, hopefully we don't get a call. I'm at the station. Well, thank you, the wrench, for watching us while you're at a lull in work. We appreciate that.
Yes.
Mike Iben, by the way, a lot of these commenters are folks that we recognize. Mike Iben works for Top Line Torque Converters here in Pittsburgh, and he builds torque converters for a living. So we have a really interesting group of guys in the comments of these. So Mike's going to be building a torque converter for me before too awful long. But anyway, I like to point that out because this is a big conversation with a whole bunch of people, and we just happen to be the ones that are looking at. But Mike said it's nice to hear someone is still racing quarter-mile races.
That's true. All of our stuff is quarter mile. You know, we start with short runs. All of our runs are wide open throttle. But
yeah, that was interesting. I was surprised at that.
Yeah. So pretty much when you're using the throttle pedal, it's either off all the way up or all the way down. That's
right.
That's the way we want it. And we do run quarter mile. You could get an 1/8 mile license and still, I mean, we could get away with running 1/8 mile, but we don't. We go ahead and run quarter mile because a lot of drivers are going to be driving cars much faster than what we are training them for. And so Frank wants to teach you through the whole racetrack.
So something I've been asked, and this would be a perfect time to pop it up to you since you know all about it. People have asked me
Yeah.
about the three sets of cones.
Mm-hmm.
They're on the starting line. You want to
Yeah.
explain the three sets of cones?
Well, we've got it set up so that it's a good visual, so you could see where you want to start your burnout and where you want to end the burnout and where you want to back. We let you go past the starting line with the burnout. So you're going to pull up till the front of your car meets the first set of cones, and what that does is that brings your rear tires through the water. So you're not sitting in the water. Your tires are wet, but you didn't go too far up, and you aren't still sitting in the water. Then you'll do your burnout to the second set of cones. So you reach the second set of cones. That's far enough, and then you lift off the throttle and uh, properly brake. That'll take you out past the starting line, and then when you go to back up. Before you stage the car, you're going to back it up to the first set of cones you see, which is the third set.
Mm-hmm.
That brings you back. That gives you enough room to straighten the car up as you're backing up and get ready to pull forward. You'll put it in park at that first set of most forward set of cones, and then that's when Frank turns the burnout limiter off and motions you to go forward. So you'll put it in gear, move forward, and then from that point you're watching the stage beams to stage the car. But that's what the three cones are there for, to give you a definition of where to start and stop the burnout.
I found it interesting. I found the cones helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I'd never, been on a track with cones there before. The first couple runs they were a little bit distracting, but not because there's anything wrong with the cones. It's because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do, which was watching all the way down to the end of the track and just using my peripheral. And that's anyway. Once I did what Frank told me to do, the cones were fine. They just kind of disappeared. They
Mm-hmm.
were the markers, but they didn't bother me anymore.
Right.
But I found that to be a neat teaching tool.
Well,
Yeah.
it's a definition because how how else would you know where to stop
Right,
or where we want you to stop? Because you're
right.
going to get your own markers when you're driving your own car. You're gonna know where to stop and start and everything. But we're working with people that have zero racing experience,
Hmm.
and they're again in the class. We've got people that never raced before. We've occasionally had a person that's never even seen a drag race before. We get people that have raced a lot, but maybe it's been a couple decades since they've been in the car, and then we've got people that are currently racing some cars that are faster than what we have. So everybody comes, but everybody learns the same way, and even in the most basic instruction, the veteran racer is going to find some things that make him think, I hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, I found a lot of those moments. I think the single biggest thing that helped me was how I think about focusing at the end of the track during the run. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've been in slower stuff that gave me the luxury of looking around too much. But when
Right.
you go faster, you can't do that because I found that when you go faster, you'll be a whole lot out of the groove in the blink of an eye if you're not watching where you're supposed to end up. And,
Right.
and so, anyway, I want to take that experience into slower cars. I can't imagine that it won't benefit me everywhere.
Well, I believe that's true. Um, and losing it's easy to lose focus when you're going down the racetrack. It just doesn't take much at all to help you to lose your focus, especially when you got somebody in the other lane that is you're wondering where they're at, or maybe you see something over there. It's easy to
Right.
get distracted. So the best thing to do is race your race in your lane and focus on that target at the end of the racetrack.
Uh, so we have Tom Hughes is asking if the cars have parachutes.
Yeah, they're required. Uh, like all of the tracks that we go to are long enough to where we show you how to deploy the parachute, but we the parachute is there if you need help stopping the car for some reason. But in the normal course of the class and your runs, you'll have plenty of time to apply the brakes and stop the car without using the parachute.
I will. We plus two. For one, we're just barely. I mean, the super gas cars don't quite get to 150, and the super comp cars are around 160. But Gainesville, I noticed, had a really long, generous shutoff.
It's one of the longest in the country. Really.
Yeah.
And if you go beyond the end of the racetrack, it's a series of sand and nets, and it looks like you could stop a fighter jet with all that down there. Of course, if you don't, you end up in the swamp with the gators. But you'd never get one of our cars to go that far.
I called that Gainesville Beach.
Gainesville Beach.
That's what it looked like. I didn't wind up in Gainesville Beach.
No, it's not a very pretty beach down there. But there are some there's some beautiful wildlife out there. No question about it.
That was, I'll tell you, I have the unfinished project says I'd pull that chute. Well, I'm sure he would. He's a very nonconformist kind of guy.
As long as he knows what to do with it at the end of the track.
As long as he wants to
so fast that Frank doesn't know that you did it, then help yourself.
Yeah, just as long as you don't drag that chute all the way back to the staging lanes.
Yeah,
but
that's what one of the reasons why, as a racer, you're not going to use the parachute unless you need it. If you're going 180 miles an hour, then you need to use that chute, but you do have to stop and do something with the chute at the end of the track. We show you how to deploy the parachute if you need to, but unless there's something really out of the ordinary going on, you won't need to. The brakes on the cars are more than adequate. As a matter of fact, it's something that you need to learn how to use the brakes properly, because you apply them too abruptly, it's going to be too much. You're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, the car stopped great. One of the things I thought was neat was on our first couple passes, our 200-foot passes. We have to go to the 200-foot mark. He wanted us to use the turnoff that's right at the quarter mile, because in 200 feet, you got plenty of time to slow down by the 1320. and man, from the stands, it looks like you'd have a hard time walking through that gate. He said it's 10 feet wide. I promise you, you could drive a motorhome through there, but from the track, it's going to look really small.
It does. It looks small. The other ones down track are a little bigger, and you got more room to swing.
Right.
But you can get through there. That was the guy, the blind guy. That's where he was going when he was doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and he only just kind of scraped the hub of the wheel. So
things happen.
Not bad for a blind guy. Yeah.
Hey, things happen. Things happen. Yeah, the wrench says fold the mirrors in.
Yeah.
I didn't see a mirror on any of those cars.
No, but that's what you feel like you want to do, especially in the door car. It seems like it's small. There is plenty of room, but it just seems like you got less room than you do. But it's kind of a good experience to have to move the car over and go through that first turnout.
Something funny. He mentions folding the mirrors in. Something I had never really thought about when I was down there, and I just noticed it later, is how much I use the mirrors when I back up. I always use the mirrors on the side when I back a car on the street. Mm-hmm. But I never realized how much harder it is to back straight when you do that.
Right.
Especially if you're pulling a trailer, because you're getting kind of a skewed perception through your mirror. It's harder to back a truly straight line. Well, if you're in your passenger car, if you're backing into a space at your local Walmart, it's not going to matter. You're looking at your white lines on the ground or whatever. But in those cars, if you were to do that, I don't think you could back them up straight. So you have to, you do your burnout and you're watching your groove and backing up straight. I think it helps you to back up straight. I found myself backing better without using the mirors.
You back up without mirrors now?
Well, I use mirrors to back a trailer, but it's surprising because when you use the mirrors to back the trailer, you get that skewed perception. And if you kind of put the fender of the trailer on a horizon, you'll find yourself going around a curve. And you don't realize it, I guess, as much until you're backing a trailer. But anyway, that was a different experience backing without mirrors. I had to trust the groove ahead of me and trust what I was seeing as being straight. And I found I backed straighter without using the mirrors.
Good.
But anyway, it was different.
Interesting. That is interesting.
An Unfinished Project says, unless you make your living in reverse, I pack up more than I pull forward. What do you do? Repo cars? Give them away to Kirby? What do you do? What do you do that you're in reverse more than forward? Yeah, Ari says reverse lights. I didn't realize how blind I was. Yeah, really, no kidding. I wish I had like headlights on the back of the car.
Right.
Any issues with it being squirrely on tube type tires? Oh, I sure didn't notice.
No.
Not that I noticed at all.
No. Those, I mean, we run very low, I say low, 5-6 pounds of pressure in the rear tires on the slicks.
Right.
Actually, I think they run a little bit more than that nowadays, but
okay.
No, it's not squirrely at all.
If you've never run on a drag slick, probably the one thing they'll notice is that they do kind of soak up the launch, so you'll feel a little bit maybe in the 60 foot, but the cars drive really straight, and you won't. There's no squirrely. They're not squirrely at all, but you'll feel the difference on the launch if all you've ever run is radials.
Yeah. The key is just looking way down track and minimal steering input. Really, if your front end's going to where your target is, you leave it alone. Leave that steering wheel alone.
The key is doing what Frank tells you.
Exactly. And if Frank told you did something, you did it.
You did it. I noticed that.
No sense in if you think you didn't, your perception is wrong. I can
right.
To that.
Right.
So you got to learn to trust him. He's tell you the truth.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If you have any other questions, let's get our last licks in. I do want to promote my Uncle Tony's Garage live stream. He has just started, so I invite you guys to head over there next. I'm going to. Paul, you're certainly welcome to join us.
Yeah, I'm going over there.
Yeah, but any of you guys have any other questions, feel free to jump in. But I'll just give a quick wrap up here. I'll say that, the school is if you go in there with preconceived notions of everything, you'll probably think things that aren't true. I know that we got a great education in biomechanics, the way our brains process the things we're doing. So we got some really highly technical education, a whole lot of why, and then we also got a whole lot of really seasoned, useful how. So both sides of your brain are going to be really happy with the stuff you learn there. That's how I would explain that to somebody that wants to know what the curriculum is like.
Right. If you need or would have questions about the school, I give everybody my cell number. It's 904-472-6312, and you can call me 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern. Call, text, whatever. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, Paul is really accessible. His info is right there. I'll put a link under this video for those of you watching this on replay so that you can get in touch with the school. I did put a link to their YouTube channel in here, but I'll put a link to the website as well on Paul's page. And of course, if any of you guys ask me later on, say, hey, how do I get in touch with the school? I'll send you over to Paul.
Yeah,
but
right.
It was a wonderful experience, and I encourage any of you guys to do it that can.
I do too. You won't be disappointed, I promise.
All right, guys. We've got our hour. I'll let Paul go. I really thank you for being on. I really appreciate that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I appreciate you inviting me.
And I appreciate all you guys in the comments for coming over. You notice that we have multiple shifts. So, we had probably anywhere from 14 to 20 watching concurrently. But they come and go in shifts. So, but we had a lot of people watch this all together. So hopefully a lot more people found out about the school. Hopefully a few of them will come try to earn their license.
I hope so. We'd love to have you. Sure.
All right. I'll see you guys. We'll sign out. I'm heading over to Uncle Tony's Garage live stream. Hope you guys will too. And also, real quick, my next live is going to be August 7th. It'll be Saturday, August 7th, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Going to be live with 318 Will Run. I believe he and Mrs. 318 Will Run will be together on a live here on this channel. So hope you guys can make that too. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Y'all have a good evening.